Hey, good morning. Hi. What is up?
Hello.
Good morning.
We've got a big crew with us today, and guess what? It is the 1 year anniversary, Blair. The 1 year anniversary since we covered Diddy with Franz whenever all this first came about.
Yes.
And then months later, Andre got with us whenever the verdict came out. And so now it's like a year later, we've got everybody with us. We got a panel.
This is exciting.
Yeah, and we're so stoked about it. So here we are. And we've got, of course, like I said, we've got Franz Borghardt, as you've seen on Nancy Grace and Court TV. Thank you for being here with us. And then we've got Andre Desir, also an attorney out of Philadelphia. Thank you for being here with us too. And we've got Danielle Peterson, aka Dani Gossip Girl, my co-host for the Little Download. And she is there with us as well. And I've got Erin, and she is on our panel, a good friend of mine. And we are, and Franz is as well. So here we are. We're going to get into all things Diddy because we want to know what's going on with the sentencing and all the questions. So Danielle, I am going to let you lead us all.
Yes. And again, Kimberly, thank you for connecting all of us. And gentlemen, thank you for joining us as well. But as we know, Sean Diddy Combs was sentenced to 50 months in prison, about 4 years and 2 months, and a $500,000 fine and 5 years of supervised release for 2 counts of transportation for the purposes of prostitution. He was taken into custody, as we know, in September of 2024. And in knowing that, Franz and Andre, but I would like to know first from you, Franz, do you feel that Diddy sentence was fair, light, severe for what he was accused of? What are your thoughts?
Great question. Happy to be here, guys. So the girls will hopefully remind everybody that about a year ago, I said, I'm not really seeing the racketeering. I don't think they're going to get him for racketeering. And for a year, I got made fun of. Oh, how do you say that? This, that, and the other. What we saw Diddy get sentenced for was we got sentenced, and in a way, it was kind of like an OJ situation where when OJ got convicted the second time, he kind of got sentenced for the first murder that he got acquitted of. Mm-hmm. On one hand, Diddy got a below federal guideline sentence. So whether anybody says it out loud from the defense team or not, that was a victory for the defense. That was a huge, anytime you go below guidelines, huge victory in federal defense world. That said, I do think that the judge punished him for what we call relevant conduct, which he didn't get convicted of. Right. The beat down video
to drag her on the floor back to the hotel room. Ventura is seen picking up a hotel phone. Combs seems to walk back to the hotel room, then returns and appears to shove her in a corner. Moments later, he can be seen throwing an object in her direction. According to Ventura,
the judge verbally took that into consideration, but also the prostitution charges had nothing to do with that. So it's kind of a bittersweet, like at the end of the day, it wasn't a bad sentence, although I know he wanted to go home. At the end of the day, he kind of got punished for things that were kind of outside the scope of what he got convicted for. But it was
disgraced hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs has been sentenced to 4 years and 2 months in prison for prostitution-related offences. The 55-year-old became emotional in the New York courtroom, describing his actions as disgusting, shameful and sick. The judge said a strong sentence was needed to send a message, also imposing the maximum fine of $500,000. Combs was convicted for transporting individuals across state lines for illegal sexual activity.
And look, guys, and I know we're going to talk about this, he's going to be home a lot sooner than a lot of people think.
That's right. I agree.
Yeah, the way the federal system works, he's going to be in a halfway house probably about 10 months to a year out from when the sentence completes. So like I slapped my wrist earlier, Danielle. When the judge started talking about holding him accountable, I'm like, well, I mean, look, if you really wanted to hold him accountable, that sentence didn't do it. But in the same breath, that sentence is probably inflated based on what otherwise was prostitution. So, it's kind of a weird situation. But if I'm a defense attorney, and I am a defense attorney, I'm doing victory laps around that federal courthouse. That's a
Mhm.
huge
Yeah.
sentencing win.
Friends, ladies, thank you again for putting this on and for inviting us. Do appreciate it. To answer your question directly, because I'm always so peeved when I ask a question, especially when I'm cross-examining and someone doesn't answer. I'm like, I asked you a direct question. How do I feel about the sentence? Do I think it's fair? I'm gonna say, in the circumstances, yes. I think it is a fair sentence. It is under the guidelines. What Diddy was convicted of 2 counts, that each individual count carried a maximum sentence of 10 years, and the judge could have sentenced him consecutively. So he was facing up to 20 years in prison, and he got 4 years and 2 months, 1 year already served. And as Franz mentioned, in the federal system, 85% of your sentence for good behavior is what is typically expected to be served. So he could be out in 2 years, 2.5 years, right? Given good behavior. And so there is a universe where we consider this a slap on the wrist. But I mean, he still has to go to prison. He is not going to be a free man anytime soon. And then I also think about what the charges were, right? The Mann Act from 1910, which at the time was called the White Slavery Act, right? For the purposes of punishing interracial couples. It was designed to disincentivize folks from being with people from other races and classes, and it was commonly used for that purpose. And so we have, as a Black lawyer, I think about the narrative here is, what was Diddy found guilty of? It wasn't prostitution, right? It wasn't just prostitution. It was this Mann Act, which is this technicality of interstate transport for prostitution purposes, in which they had to change because it used to read before like 1985. It used to read any even for just sexual conduct, and in 1985 they changed the law to mean for a criminal activity, something you can be criminally charged with, as opposed to just fornication with someone across state lines or illicit purposes. And so the law that he was convicted of, it has a very troubling history, and he's going to be serving real time in prison. And so I'm considering all of that. But then at the same time, I think his behavior was abhorrent, and I think he was a very problematic individual for a lot of people. When I heard he kidnapped Kid Cudi's dog, I was like, throw him under the jail, right? You know what I mean? That was my take on it after, just my personal take on it.
So Danielle, you've got to ask Andre, or I can ask Andre. Andre, talk about the quality of life difference for Diddy from being in a county prison versus the Bureau of Prisons. Because I think that there's a part of the conversation there that needs to be had.
Rikers Island is they're going to be doing documentaries for the next 30 years about the shenanigans that have gone on Rikers Island.
Really?
It's gonna be akin to Alcatraz, that kind of myth of like this legendary prison where like it was, what was that HBO show back in the day where the prison show, the HBO prison show? Oz. It's gonna be like, Rikers Island is a version of Oz, and that is a New York State correctional institution, as opposed to Club Fed, right? Which one of the things I was reading while I was getting prepared for today, reading some articles, they people even found the commissary list difference, like the items you can get in commissary in federal prison versus the items you can get in commissary in state prison, right? Like there's like a large list of 100+ items versus like Doritos. Right, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, there is going to be a big quality of life difference when he is eventually transferred into federal custody.
Wasn't Jeffrey Epstein in Rikers when he got murdered? Killed?
Is that where he was?
No.
Was he in the other one? I can't remember. Anyway.
No,
sorry.
I don't think. I think it was like no, I don't think it was Rikers. I could be mistaken. But thank you guys for that insight. I didn't even realize he was going to be at Rikers.
I only bring up Rikers because it is a state institution. And
okay, got you.
It's a New York State institution that's terrible.
So if some federal Bureau of Prisons facilities, they have Sunday brunch. Some federal facilities, Danielle, they have yoga. Diddy's life's about to get a lot better. Whether he embraces it or not, it is going to be so much better than the county hole he was in before.
Oh,
And it may not be as good as like the scene from Goodfellas where they're like cooking steaks and stuff. But Diddy's gonna have a hugely better quality of life.
So this is gonna be kind of like Martha Stewart level person, maybe teaching yoga or like learn how to knit.
Well, it
Oh,
does.
that's so
it does-
disappointing.
So it does pose the question, do you have to put him in isolation? Do you have to put him like in solitary because he's Diddy? Or do you just general pop him and just hope for the best? I don't know. I mean,
I think some of those institutions, I think because he was convicted of prostitution, right, which is a sexual in nature offense, as opposed to like I think of the New York guy who was the big Madoff, right, who was a financial crime, right, or the guy from the crypto who who defrauded everyone, right? Those financial in nature where there isn't any coercive or violent element to the crime, because he was convicted of prostitution, essentially, that he will be housed or with other inmates with similar offenses, which could pose a problem if he is in general population, because I don't know if he'll be getting ransomed, probably.
Yeah, and I see he's trying to get set up at FCI Fort Dix as hopefully his location.
Oh,
Hopefully it's not as cush.
Yeah, I think that is one of the more cushy prisons, if I'm right.
Robert Downey Jr. was there.
Oh.
Oh. So it's like kind of like almost like a little celebrity hole in a way. So question for you, Andre. We'll get you to start with this one. So what do you think? How do you think his sentencing compares to like other celebrity criminal cases?
I'm with Franz. I think it was, I mean, like we said, below the guidelines. And just, I always like to explain what that means is the judge, he gets like a graph. It's a kind of sheet, a chart. It's like a cheat sheet, so to speak, about what is, there's a federal sentencing guidelines, which are they're promulgated or passed around the judges who have a lot of discretion in sentencing on, and the guidelines say, okay, based on these factors and this number, this math calculation that we do, this is what this person, based on if in a colorblind system, if we're trying to treat everyone fairly, this is what the suggested sentence is, or the range for the suggested sentence, and the judge can use his discretion to sentence anywhere within that range. And again, knowing that the maximum penalty under law for what he was convicted is 20 years, thinking that he got four years, and how that compares to other celebrity sentences. I think it's definitely more on the lenient side, right? We think about I think some of the more gangster rappers recently that have been sentenced. I think about the shooting that happened with Megan Thee Stallion and that sentence, right? And how I think that sentence was way disproportionate to what the alleged crime was, as opposed to this one. I mean, I think the judge really thought about the attention, how much national attention everybody was paying to this, and really came down with something that was above reproach. 4 years and 2 months, it appeased both sides of like, so there's people right now saying, oh, because he's rich, he's getting off scot-free or a slap on the wrist. And then realistically, he's going to spend years in prison, right? Like it's not a little bit of time for something. I thought a really interesting point that was made. He didn't profit from this in the traditional sense of like, he didn't exploit someone for gain, from financial gain, right? He did it for his own ego, whatever, sexual desires, but he was not using or abusing someone to make money off of them in an exploitative way. He was actually paying these people, right? So, and he's going to spend years in prison if we really think about that.
So is it kind of like that? It's not a crime kind of thing?
That's not what I'm saying.
No. To Andre's point, they made a very creative argument both in the motion to dismiss and the sentencing as to, well, it's not that it's not a crime, but like if you look at the plain language of the statute, you generally get a thing of, you're giving or getting a thing of value. And this is kind of weird in the sense of, I don't think the federal prosecutors ever thought that they would be arguing at sentencing just these two crimes. That's the issue, right? The stroke of genius by the judge, though, is by going below the guidelines, it insulates the sentence. Because when they take the appeal, they're going to appeal the sentence because, I mean, why not appeal the sentence? He's got the money, he's got the time, he's in jail. Why wouldn't you appeal the sentence? But the circuit court's going to look, the appellate court, the appeals court's going to look at this sentence and say, well, wait a minute, it was below guidelines.
Done.
And I think in part he did that, the judge did that to put this case to bed. Because ultimately and look, Andre said it best. It's a grid. If you look at it's a bunch of numbers and it's a grid. And all the judge has to do is consider the guidelines. The judge is not bound by the guidelines. They can go up, they can go down, they can stay right in the guidelines. By going below, it kind of destroys an argument of unfair sentence. And that's the stroke of, to me, that's the stroke of genius. Everybody wanted to see him lit up like a Christmas tree. Everybody wanted to see him get more time. Well, here's the thing. If you give him more time, it just bolsters his appeal of, well, wait, what are you sentencing me for? Why are you going above the range? That said, it's still a slap. That sentence is a slap on the wrist.
It's like a slippery slap.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just.
No pun intended, Aaron. No pun intended. Slippery slap.
But like that being said, do you think that public perception might have possibly swayed the legal process in any way? Do you think public perception may have possibly swayed?
He was tried. He was absolutely, and again, I would yield to Danielle on this one. He was tried in the court of public opinion and in a court of law. Now, the interesting piece is we, as someone who was covering the case on Court TV and on other places, we weren't given the bird's eye view of the courtroom with a camera. It's a federal court. You don't get to watch it like that.
Right.
But man, oh man, did we watch videos repetitively and see things. And look, he was found guilty in the court of public opinion, whether or not people thought he was racketeering or not.
Sure.
When they did the raid of the
today
house.
raided the homes of music. Federal authorities today raided the homes of music mogul Sean Diddy Combs in Los Angeles and in Miami. Homeland Security officers were there at both homes, saying it was part of an ongoing investigation into alleged human trafficking. 2 men were detained at the LA home. They've been identified as Combs' sons. The hip-hop mogul has previously denied accusations of sexual assault.
When they did the raid of the house, what I thought was masterful was they made a big deal about the firearm.
New exhibits and evidence showing what was inside Diddy's LA home and texts of him calling Cassie ungrateful after beating her. Hundreds of bottles of baby oil, 16 cases of Astroglide, bullets, even semi-automatic firearms were all found in Combs' homes during those raids last year.
There's also legal. Like there was nothing illicit about any of the firearms. I mean, normally when my clients have a whole bunch of firearms, there's something wrong with the firearms.
Yeah.
There was nothing wrong. But like just sprinkling that in, like, oh, by the way, had a small arsenal of firearms. Well, that's perfectly legal. But that played into the narrative of this is Diddy. Lots of lube, lots of firearms, crazy behavior, freak out parties. It just, and guys, I asked the question before we went on air. Everybody likes a comeback kid. Does he bounce back from this 2-3 years later, or is he done? I don't know the answer to that.
There is no bouncing back from this.
Yeah.
Even in the court of public opinion, all right. So I'm going to say something that's a little controversial. I grew up in New York City, inner city, and there was before. I think that in a different universe, there was whenever you would have conversations and you would say something that would be contrived or viewed as being homosexual, you would say something called no homo, which was a term to remove the sexual innuendo from what you've said. They've in the cultural zeitgeist, they've changed the term to no Diddy.
Oh,
right, like that is
wow.
That is the impact that it is, right? Like I don't know if you watch Mason Cameron's sports podcast. That is whenever you got to say the no homo. Now it's like the no Diddy. The cultural infusion of his behavior it's so far reaching that there is, in my opinion, there's no comeback from it. And I think it's going to be a cautionary tale to some of these other mogul types who thought they were above the law. Like I said, this behavior it's not like 2-3 years old. This is decades. This is 2 decades of Diddy terrorizing folks, right? Like paying off security guys, buying cameras, kidnapping dogs, setting people's houses on fire. Like this isn't like we weren't talking about a small window of behavior. Like he just got drunk on the juice for 2-3 years and was starting to get out of control. This is a prolonged period of really problematic behavior. And I think this is going to put other people on notice that they will come for you, right? Like you are not, they will come for you for people are totaling up the receipts. And when it gets to a certain amount, they're coming for you.
Which I think is great, because I'm so sick of seeing people in power get away with and just do whatever they want to do because they have money, power, connections. That, I mean, the little guy like we are, if we did half that stuff, we'd be under the freaking jail.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's just, you just get sick of just all these people using their celebrity and fame to just do whatever the hell they want to do.
My guess is that I think there's going to be layers to this. It's going to probably depend on certain circles and certain groups of people. That, like, I think with some people, I feel like with the, common folk, plebeians for want to call us, I think we're going to be like, he needs to suffer for this and that he should be canceled. I feel like amongst certain people, I mean, amongst some of the people who the celebrities, the rich people, some of them might not want that association with him. But then I think there are others who are, part of clout chasing won't mind. And I think he's probably going to try to get a good PR, a good publicist. I think to some extent that'll be kind of like, in my opinion, I think maybe kind of like a Dalmatian. But with there's always going to be spots. But some people I think will be okay with him.
So the interesting thing to me is, and I'm not, as you guys know, I'm not in the music world. I'm not a producer. I'm not making the rap albums yet.
You could have fooled me.
Shout out to West. I'm more West Coast than I do like Atlanta. Here's the interesting thing for me though, is Diddy, after the civil suits all play themselves out, and some of them have been settled, some of them are going to just be, if there's any money left, he can still quietly be a producer quietly and have his money make more money. It's not like, look, if I go to federal prison for 5 to 6 years, lose my law license, I'm coming out on the other end a little different. And look, candidly, we don't know what money is hidden, and Diddy definitely has some money hidden. I mean, there's, if you ever watch the movie Get Him to the Greek, there's a joke in there where he's starring and he's talking about the kookaroos, and there's probably some hidden offshore whatever. But I'm curious, the comeback piece for me, and what I'm wondering is, if you're an artist up and coming, are you going to want to work with him? Probably not. But can he still make money indirectly through music and production if he's hands off? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. I mean,
I don't think I agree with you, Franz. I don't think he needs to make money, in the sense that, like, if he doesn't have money in offshore accounts, like the whoever his money people were they need to be fired. They need to, right? If he don't got, if he didn't just take $100 million and throw it in an account in Switzerland somewhere just because he, had $1 billion, like that's on him, right? Like if the civil, and that's an interesting point, that the civil lawsuits, there are about 20 civil lawsuits, and he didn't testify in his defense trial, in his criminal trial, and he might have to testify if some of those matters, the civil matters, go to trial. Lower burden of proof, meaning those civil trials, in order to be found liable for some of those civil wrongs, it is a much lower standard than in the criminal system, and so it's likely that he's going to lose some of those civil trials, and especially, like you said, the public narrative, and having lost the associated criminal matters, it will make it a little bit easier to win some of those civil matters. But if you don't got money off, I don't think Diddy's concerned about money, right? Like I don't, the royalties that he gets and the way that the systems work, all of those, anytime one of his songs plays, he gets 7 cents or 8 cents, right? You know what I mean? That money's it's going to keep coming in. I don't think the money part is concerned as the public image. Is he going to be able to be a choice maker in society as he previously was, in that he was part, helped make and picked what we as a society thought was cool or was appropriate or within acceptable bounds. I think that part of his life is over.
So with that part of his life being over, he has other potential settlements to work through. his ego. It's 2 decades worth of problematic behavior. What is the chance of him potentially appealing it? Do you gentlemen see him trying to appeal it at all, or just leave it be, considering the judge did do it below the guidelines?
We are planning to appeal. We think we have strong bases to appeal. The strongest basis is that the jury reached a verdict on coercion. It found there was not coercion. And I think the judge said coercion today as a basis for a sentence at least a dozen times. We think that that is unconstitutional. We think that a jury verdict should mean more than our jury's verdict seems to mean, and so we are planning to appeal.
The judge clearly thought the sexual encounters weren't consensual.
Because he's biased.
Make of his remarks.
He's biased.
If anyone, I'm happy to go. So we think that's just absolutely inconsistent with the jury's verdict. I mean, the jury's verdict was resoundingly clear. There was no sex trafficking. There was no racketeering. Everything was consensual. Everything was adult, which is why he was convicted only of the prostitution offense. What we feel happened today was that the judge acted as a 13th juror, one that we did not choose, and that he second-guessed the jury's verdict.
I can't speak for Andre, but Andre's probably a far better attorney than I am. If I had, it's about bandwidth, Danielle. If you've got the financial bandwidth to try, you lose nothing by trying, right? Like you literally, and keep in mind, even if he was broke, he'd have a federal public defender appeals attorney who is probably very well qualified be able to handle it. So he's got a couple of things here. He's got the actual appeal of the conviction, which they protected the record. There should be, there's some meat on the bone there. That's my way of saying there's some issues. And then there's the sentencing. Why not try? If it gets him home a fraction of the time sooner. Now, what he probably doesn't want is if he gets the convictions overturned, then guess what? You got to start over. And it's to some degree, he may only want to appeal the sentence. Again, he loses nothing. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. He loses nothing doing it. And even the sentencing, and Andre, I want your opinion. Even the sentencing, while I stand by my position that it's insulated, there's some arguments there that while the federal judge could consider some of the things he considered, there's some arguments there that maybe he went a little bit too far in what he said out loud. I don't know, but I definitely think he's going to appeal the sentencing. Whether or not he appeals the conviction or not, I don't know.
I remember my last time that I was on, I had spoke to Kimberly and Blair, and I had shared with them that he had a team of lawyers he had 5 lawyers, 6 lawyers. One lawyer was an appellate lawyer whose whole job at trial was to sit there and just write down all the appealable issues. That's that lawyer's whole job. And then right, they, like you said, we preserve the record. Every single thing they can contest, they can. And there was, when I was thinking about my appearance today, there was something I wanted to bring that I was struggling with as an attorney and as who was someone who was formerly a layperson, that I thought about that. Okay, so his lawyers had requested when they were doing the sentencing, both parties got to submit briefs and what they suggested sentence to the judge was. And we have the prosecutors on one side asking for 11 years, right, which is, in the middle of the 20-year sentence, a little bit above it. And then we had Diddy's side, which argued for 12, 13, 14 months, right? And I'm and that is the bare minimum. And so you have the prosecutors asking for something in the middle of what the maximum sentence can be. And then you have Diddy's attorneys asking for the bare minimum. And Franz just said an interesting point: nothing ventured, nothing gained. And as lawyers, we are trained to advocate zealously for our clients. And that means that his lawyers, with a straight face, when he was convicted for a penalty maximum 20 years, asked for him to serve 12 months, right? Or time served already, right? And that was they spent a 100-page brief on why a 12-month sentence is completely appropriate in this matter. And me, I'm thinking, like, I know that's, if I was convicted, I want my lawyers to try to get me the least possible time. But then as a regular person, is that reasonable to ask the judge to sentence him to time served? I think it was completely unreasonable, but the lawyers still had to do it, right? They still had to submit their brief and ask the judge for the absolute bare minimum 12 months, which, I mean, would have been a real slap on the wrist if he had got time served, so to speak. And so I think about our credibility that we have sometimes when we have to make some of those ludicrous arguments. You're convicted of 2 counts that carry 10 years each, maximum 20 years, and you're asking the judge to sentence your client's time served, right? And our position as lawyers and zealous advocates require us to do that, because nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? If we don't, there's no chance my client gets off with time served unless I ask for it. But to ask for it, I have to, I think, be ludicrous.
As a follow-up, he's the client. They go to him as the client. And by the way, these are very well-paid attorneys.
Yeah,
I'd love to have been seventh chair on this case. That'd been great. Love it.
You know, you're not have to take another case.
Right up Franz bank account.
Right. So you go to your client and you're like, what do you want us to argue for? And Diddy's like, I want to go home. Okay. And you're like, Diddy, I don't think that that's going to happen. Why don't you let us argue for something other than that? Like a low sentence where you're practically credit for time served. Maybe you have a little bit more. I'm betting, though, that those defense attorneys are looking at each other like, ain't no way the judge is not going to give us this, right? And maybe the judge breaks the proverbial baby in half and says, hey, you know what? I'm going to give you a little bit something near what you have or want and something a little bit further away from. And look, objectively, as a defense attorney, that was a huge win for the defense. It's kind of like I told someone on another outlet, it's kind of like asking someone out that's way outside of your coverage. The worst that she's going to say is no, but they may say yes. So last point, if you ever hear me stand up and look at a federal judge, and it happens sometimes, Judge, my client wants me to ask you for the sun, the moon, and the stars, or whatever it is I'm asking for.
You have to hear them.
It's important to my client that I ask. And Judge, I understand what the law is on this issue, but my client wants me to ask for it nonetheless. That's my way of winking at the judge saying, you know what, Judge, I'm asking because it's important to my client, but I know that my client's not getting probation on this. And sometimes we have to do things like that. Guys, God's honest truth. We got to ask for stuff so that our client can see us fighting for them. Now, money's a little different. Big money cases, they're earning I'm assuming, Andre, they're getting paid heavily by the hour. New York federal attorneys, what's the hourly rate on that? $1,500 an hour, if not more. My hourly rate is not $1,500 an hour. I'm just saying, it's easy to come up with stupid arguments that are legally sound when you're getting paid well by the hour. But sometimes you're also strategically doing something like, hey, you're not going home, but maybe we ask for this low number and he gives us slightly above the low number, and that's a win. This is a win. I don't care if you do federal criminal defense across the country, you're doing victory laps around your client going home is the win, but this is a huge win.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's okay. So, what do y'all think about I remember it came out and TMZ even talked about it, and I think you even talked about it, Franz, with Brian Haldane on his show, where it came out that he was trying to book an appearance. What do y'all think? Do y'all think that played any
Prosecutor Mary Slavic slammed Diddy's defense. This isn't just a case about freak-offs or hotel nights. She told the court, this isn't a case about just sex. It's a case about real victims who suffered real harm at the hands of the defendant. It's about a man who did horrible things to other people to satisfy his own gratification. He didn't need the money. His currency was control. The words cut through the courtroom, underscoring the government's argument that Combs used power as his weapon. The prosecution asked for a sentence of 11 years and 3 months, describing it as appropriate, consistent with other defendants, and necessary to ensure accountability. Slavic warned that a lighter sentence would allow Combs to escape responsibility for years of abuse. She pointed to a pattern: domination, coercion, and silence enforced by fear. But the twist came not just in the past, but in Combs' present behavior. Prosecutors revealed he had already booked speaking engagements in Miami for the following week, confident he would walk free. In a letter filed September 29th, a Miami nonprofit described scheduled teaching engagements for Combs at a prison and other facilities. Prosecutors seized on it as proof of arrogance. Even now, at sentencing for his conviction for 2 federal crimes, he doesn't fully grapple with how his actions got him here. His respect for the law is just lip service. He has booked speaking engagements in Miami for next week. That is the height of hubris, Your Honor.
So there's the optics of that of, wait, you're booking stuff and you haven't been sentenced yet. Now they spun it at sentencing with no. He is going to go talk to people about how not to end up in his situation. Okay. That sounds much better. Still bad optics. Now, I will say this, because you didn't ask me about this. He got slammed for the day in the life video, the federal video, the production.
Yeah.
Diddy's team
That-
dropped an 11-minute video this morning ahead of his sentencing, where he presented himself as a do-gooder to appeal to the judge.
It's no better way than taking it to the streets. It's a beautiful city, running all around. The city's gonna be painful. It's gonna be rough. But you know, if we get through it, then it'll show kids and everybody else that, you know, finish what you started and you can do anything you put your mind to.
It's filled with archival footage of him playing with his young children, meeting fans, running the New York City Marathon, and donating to schools. Much of it comes off like a documentary, highlighting his good deeds. But will it be enough to convince the judge to set him free today?
To me, I've done videos in sentencing before. I thought that was actually a smart idea. It may have backfired. It may have backfired because look, the reality is, here's this guy who's done some horrible stuff, but he's also done some good. And it's like, it's that and I'm not comparing Diddy to Lance Armstrong, but I'm about to.
I hear you.
It's the Lance Armstrong of, dude, you cheated, but you did do a whole bunch to fight cancer. I still got the yellow bracelets, the Livestrong bracelets. Yeah. So my point is, okay, I would not have announced that my client is going on a speaking tour before he gets sentenced. I would have said in my memo, in my argument, Judge, if the court allows my client to go home, this is his plan. The first thing he's going to do is he is going to help young people not end up where he is. He is going to do this, and he plans to take that time. By the way, he's on supervised. If he gets out, he's on federal supervised release. They don't let you jet set around the country when you're on federal. The absurdity was, and I do think to a certain degree, client control. Diddy thought he was going home. Diddy probably thought, hey, when I get out, I'm just going to start jet setting and going around the country. I think that was handled improperly from a marketing PR standpoint. I think they had the best of intentions, but man, oh man, did that sound horrible. And man, oh man, did the U.S. attorneys pounce on that at sentencing. Like, he's not taking this serious. Like, he still isn't taking this serious.
So with Diddy's lawyer, Nicole Westmoreland, she broke down in tears as she was pleading for him.
Everyone's coming up to me and saying, did you see Nicole Westmoreland?
Bullshit.
Crying. People go, we had to do a double take. Like, was that really her on the, like, she was literally, you guys, bawling while giving a statement. Like, we don't see that often. Usually lawyers are like calm and collected. She was up there crying as if like she was one of Diddy's family members. And then people are coming up to me going like this. Did you see? Yeah, I saw. I heard. I saw. And I don't know what to make of it. It was very strange to see a lawyer cry, I guess. And I don't know if those were real tears or if they were crocodile tears. All I know is that when she was up there, people were like the whole room started, not the whole room, but a lot of people in the room started crying when the kids were crying because those were real tears for sure. But Nicole's tears were like confusing for sure. People were like, wait, what? We're just not used to seeing that, a lawyer cry. Do you think Brian Steele's gonna get up there and sob? So
for him, what were your thoughts on that? Because, you know, obviously it is a win, as we have been referencing a couple of times. Was that theatrics? Was it genuine? Is she scared for her life? What are your guys' thoughts?
I'm gonna weigh in here and say it was theatrics. There is a part of trial advocacy I think a lot of folks aren't aware of, and especially at this high level. And what I mean by that, with Franz mentioning $1,500 an hour lawyers, and these trial hardened lawyers who have won, or this isn't their first rodeo. Every single thing that happens at trial is intentional. It is not accidental. Who speaks? Who makes what argument? What order they present the evidence, what questions they ask, the crosses, all of it is intentional. When you get to that high level of trial advocacy and being a trial attorney. And so that was not in a spur of the moment. It just happened and she broke down, and it wasn't, that was choreographed. That speech what she had said, she practiced that in the mirror 10 times. Right, that wasn't the first time she said that, and so even on a small matter, I would write down my points, my talking points, practice my opening and closing before a jury. Like if I have to give those, and I'm talking about like there could be just me, the judge, the two people on the jury, and I'm still practicing because then there's nobody watching. And you talking about we got this. The entire world is, you know what I mean, watching outside, is people doing tricks, and you think that was one, in my opinion, 100% prepared in advance and workshopped, right? Like other people gave input into it, etc.
So on the one hand, I don't doubt that they all cared for their client. You do. I mean, if you're doing the job right, you do care for your client. On the other hand, and I've been doing this for about 20 years. If you're going to have a breakdown in a court for a client, you get to do that.
If they weren't convicted of, I heard you say earlier, there's no crying in the courtroom. I mean, I have handled some very, very sad cases, and I've become very somber, but I've never shed a tear.
There's no crying.
Only when
just leave their own.
I'm not
She's crying,
lie,
sir. She's crying.
I, one of the few.
No.
Are you crying? Are you crying? There's no crying. There's no crying.
She's crying.
One of the few times the only time I cried, and I waited until I got in the hallway, is when I represented someone who I knew was absolutely innocent, factually innocent. And when I got to hear not guilty 43 times,
I did the same.
Go in the hallway and cry.
I did the same.
That's nice. Like tears of
In a career, are you going to do that one for Diddy? Well, if he's paying you $1,500 an hour, you're going to do it. Shoot, I'll get on the stage and dance on a pole for $1,500 an hour. Point is, figuratively, not literally. Point is, problem with that is it borderlines on disingenuous, right? Like the rape victim that kills her rapist father and is looking at 20 years. And we all know the tragedy is they're about to go to jail, and you're advocating for less time because everybody in the room understands that the rapist is the one she killed and she's the victim and how messed up it is. You can break down for that client and cry. Sure. And everybody understands that, right? The tragic unfairness situation is the one you cry for. This,
yeah, that was wild.
Like, I will tell you, I've never represented anyone the likes of Diddy. I've represented people that needed to be put in jail and deserve to be put in jail. And generally, instead of boohooing and crying,
Allegedly, Franz, allegedly.
At that point, at that point, Andre, I'd like you to believe, I'd like all of you to, Aaron, I'm going to tell you, I often say, and Aaron's probably heard me say this, once they hire me, they're innocent, right? In a way that no one's ever been innocent before. But at sentencing, they've either pled or they've been convicted. So I will tell you, generally, my tactic has been with someone like Diddy, I would look at the judge and try to diffuse it with saying, Judge, if I were you, you'd have every reason in the world to put my client away for 20 years. And this is why I want you to consider doing the opposite. You have to diffuse it. If I'm in a normal person's shoes, I'm like, wait, what? Because crying in the middle of the courtroom for Diddy is about as genuine as, Judge, just send him home. Like he's struggled so much. He's sat in this county jail and he's struggled so much. He did struggle. I'm quite sure his county tour of music in by the way, his behavior in the county wasn't exactly stellar.
Oh, really? Was he running people off the
streets? He had the worst part in the world was, guys, had he just been a good boy the entire time he was in county, that would have given his look, Judge, he can follow guidelines. He's shown that he's a good model inmate. No, it's the I don't follow the rules. So to your question, guys, crying and boo-hooing for Diddy, I don't.
Yeah, she's crying and boo-hooing because she wanted him to get $1,500.
Franz, when I heard some of those stories, I thought of Denzel from Training Day. He was like Denzel from Training Day, and they're like, "I'm putting cases on all you bitches." Like that's what he was.
Yeah,
that's how he was acting. Those are the allegations, and in jail, like acting like a mob boss in prison. Like, what are you doing, bro? Like, chill.
So I have not. So I've only seen, like most of us, I've only seen artist renditions of Diddy since the beginning of this.
Yeah.
I have not seen him in the flesh. I didn't go to New York for the trial, although I would have loved to. There is a absence of reality that this man has historically possessed. And I get that to be successful, to do what he did,
you need it.
Non-illicit, non-illegal activities. There's to a certain degree you have to be a certain way. But I still don't think he's in touch with reality. And generally, like, look, Blair, if I put Aaron in jail for a weekend, that's going to get pretty real for Aaron. Aaron will do about as well in prison as Danielle and I will do. Danielle, let's be honest. Like, Danielle and I and Aaron, probably not going to do well in prison. You put us in jail for a weekend, shit's going to get real fast. I don't know that I don't sense that he, like, I don't sense that reality is something that he possesses right now.
Yeah.
He's used to just getting his way with everything. You know, like, hey, get me this, get me that, do this, do that. And you have all your rights taken away. I mean, they tell you when to go to the bathroom, when to eat, when you can shower. I mean, that's.
Andre's got me watching. Andre has got me watching Training Day after we get done with this, ladies.
Prison is its own ecosystem, and I will say this: there are a lot of unspoken rules, and there are a lot of things you can do in money, and the kind of money that Diddy has and can change a prison guard's life, right? Like, $200,000 to a prison guard will, right, in an account that someone drops off or hands them on a cryptocurrency flash drive, right? Like, that will buy him a lot of goodwill, and these systems are insular, and they all work together, and they're all aware of them. You'd be surprised on the kind of networks that guards and inmates have going on. And so someone as high profile and as rich as Diddy can affect a lot of behaviors in prison. And to Fran's point about not living in reality, I think like you said, to get to that level of success, you have to be delusional, and that delusional doesn't stop. It doesn't cut off at a certain point. It just continues on, and part of that, I think, is not going to serve him well in prison.
So in ancient Rome, when someone would go before the emperor, there was always a lower level guy, thou art mortal, thou art mortal, thou art mortal, that would walk with the person as they approach. When's the last time someone talked to Diddy and said, thou art mortal? Probably it's been quite some time.
Yeah, because they're too afraid of that.
And look, Danielle, justifiably afraid.
Yeah.
Like Andre, the dog situation, I was like, oh, like, what the
no.
Oh.
But going back, gentlemen, to some of your points about his bad behavior and the money as well, they were saying that he was paying other inmates. So they directed his team to pay other inmates for their phone time by depositing money into their commissionary accounts, which is against regulations. But who else knows what's going on? And of course, the witness tampering as well and sneaking phones. So yeah, his behavior hasn't been bad or good when he should be on tip-top behavior. There's no way to like rewire his DNA and who he is.
Well, and honestly, that sentence is not going to cause him to be rewired.
Yeah.
I mean, look, he's going to 10 years, he would have walked out of prison at some point. At 2-3 years of actual time, that's not going to rewire anything. It may, in fact, my concern is it may, in fact, embolden him because he dodged some serious bullets. Mm-hmm. Let's not mince words. If he gets convicted of the racketeering, he ain't walking out of prison. So does Diddy come out on the other end, guys, more emboldened? Like, we want to live in a world where people like get reformed, they go and they're changed. Maybe Diddy finds Jesus, who knows? Like, maybe he gets into some programs, maybe he gets some treatment, or does he become worse?
I think he's going to further toe the line. He's managed to do it so well to this point, in my opinion. I
I feel like the court's popular opinion is going to change. I think they're going to forgive him as time goes on, and he's going to end up producing some great music. He's going to come out, and I think he's going to probably almost like that documentary that's out right now. It's the cocaine quarterback. Like the guy went into prison. He pretty much now he started his own line of like ice cream that he's selling now.
Yeah, protein ice cream.
Yeah, protein ice cream. Yeah, and it's kind of like I think he's going to do something. Maybe like if he's going to become like really religious, maybe do a gospel type of realm, go that direction. I think he's going to do something and end up becoming like in a way, I guess, a little like more like on a kind of like a redemption tour in a way.
I think he might end up getting a Kobe Bryant rebrand. Because everyone have one with him.
True, I forgot about that.
I think about when I think about the long arc of history and what allowed this to happen for so long. So many people were complicit in his behavior, right? You had security, you had butlers, you had agents, you had the people who would book the hotels or make the flights and pay for and do all the things, go get all the drugs and all the baby oil and right, like you had so many participants who were complicit, and part of that complicity was like, oh, that's Diddy. Like, who am I, this small ant peon, to go, I'm going to be crushed under the weight of whatever he brings to bear against me. And I think that complicity is gone now, or that ability to right, like saying I have to do this or else Diddy's going to ruin me, right? And that part was necessary for all of these things to occur for as long as they did and to go to the extent that they did. And I think that complicity is going to be gone because he's not going to get or have that ability to have people compromised in the ways that he did previously. He had compromised. I think about that hotel. This is one of the 5-star top hotels in the world. To make that security footage disappear, right? You know what I mean? Like this isn't Hotel 6, Motel 6 down the road, right? Down the road.
Right.
And so for his ability to, go get 50 grand, bring the security guy in the room, bring me that tape. Is this the only copy? That security guy, that's his career, right? To get to that, to be at the top of that security of that hotel, he's had to work his way up, and he was willing to jeopardize his career to help Diddy the Stranger. No, because he's like, if I don't do this, I'm gonna be another victim. And I think that mentality or that perspective for Diddy is gone, and therefore his behavior won't be allowed to manifest.
That safety net.
And he's probably the type of individual that preys on the weak also.
Oh,
They would definitely preys on who he can mold, shape. That's the kind of people he probably likes to surround himself with that he can control.
People like him can pick out people like that easily. So.
That's what I think. So how do you think fans will reconcile loving his music with his alleged actions? I kind of like dip into that a little bit.
Oh, this is something I struggle with.
Yeah,
So
I know.
I still see his music trending on TikTok.
So I have always said I can separate the artist
art from the
artist. Whereas I don't love R. Kelly music, I still listen to Michael Jackson music. I was listening to Thriller with my 10-year-old on the way to school the other day. I can separate the art from the artist. Now, the issue is the pervasiveness that he had his fingers in so many different other artists and so many other songs that and Diddy liked getting credit for doing Diddy, right?
Right.
We're not talking DJ, what's his name, where it's like another one,
DJ Khaled.
Yeah. Diddy, even if Danielle's like, really? Franz listens to that? I'm very eclectic. But Diddy, if you do a search for his music, it's like, oh, he was in that song? I think that people will say a good song is a good song, right? The other day, I've been reading Brene Brown, Permission to Be Vulnerable. The other day, I was watching old school Cosby Show because I love Cliff Huxtable I was watching it and I was like, you know what? Should I not be watching Bill Cosby and the Huxtables and all that? And I was like, no, it's art from the artist. So to some degree, I think canceling his music at this point is kind of nobody wins. I feel like this is the analogy I'll use. J.K. Rowling makes some comments that are cancel worthy. And the National Quidditch League those folks that play Quidditch in real life take up arms and say, we're going to rename Quidditch. They're not going to stop playing the stupid sport. They're going to
really
rename
did?
it, rebrand it,
To try to
that's what they
distance
did.
themselves.
To
Yeah.
distance
Wow.
themselves. Convictions on things, on cancellation is a weird thing. Nobody's in your car when you're listening to Diddy. Bad Boy, look, Bad Boys for Life. I remember that video when you still are coming with the golf ball, right? Right. I remember Shaq making the camp. I'm from Baton Rouge. I remember Shaq in Bad Boys for Life. Am I still going to listen to Bad Boys for Life? Probably.
Franz, I'm going to piggyback and offer a slightly different perspective. Recently, so I have a party coming up, and I was choosing the playlist for the party, and one of the songs I wanted on the playlist was "Let's Get Married," right? And there's a Bad Boy remix, and I went and I chose purposely the original rather than the Bad Boy remix, right? And now I feel a little guilty about that. And that I was like, you know what? Diddy got too much controversy right now. Let's just go with the original and not include the Diddy version, right? But at the same time, I can mentally, I think I like to from say that I can separate the art from the artist, right? Like I can appreciate Picasso's work, right? And say how, Cubism and the blue period and the rose period. But at the same time, I every time I see one of his works, I think about him marrying at 60 something years old, a 17-year-old, right? Like every time I see one of his works, I'm like, he married a 17-year-old, right? Like when he was 60 something. And while I am appreciating the art, it still comes to the forefront of the mind. And at the same time, like I think it's to the degree of the morality, because I agree with you. R. Kelly, we will not play an R. Kelly song. Like that's a no. That's a hard no, right? Because we found his behavior so morally abhorrent that we're like, we want no connection to it. But at the same time, right? Like I play some of Kanye's the first two albums, right? Late Registration, right? College Dropout, right? But
So good.
Yeah, I'm not playing anything after 808 and Heartbreaks, right? You know what I'm saying? I don't even know when he comes or plays new music because he's so far.
Yeah.
I morally am so disengaged with him that I don't care to give him my money by listening to his current music or buying his streams or participating in that, because I don't want this person that I disagree with to profit from my behavior. And so that is part of my, calculus, right? Do I want this person to profit? And I'm intentional enough. I'm saying, no, I don't want Kanye West, this version, this iteration, to profit off of the things that he's doing now, right? Like having his partner or spouse walking around nude all the time. Like, what is that about, right? Like, he's driving that, and it's like, what are you doing?
So the interesting piece, because I've actually spent time thinking about Kanye recently, especially in connection to the Diddy trial. The interesting piece is, I mean this with the great deal of respect to anybody that has mental illness. Kanye has mental illness, right? Like there's something a little off, right? That does not condone the behavior, Andre. I agree with you 100% on that. But here's the thing. Like Diddy's level of predatorial actions, it's the same way, to some degree, it's the same way I feel about R. Kelly, right? But in the same breath, I was listening to Thriller. I was listening to Man in the Mirror is one of my favorite songs, And so
what makes it so hard for Diddy's behavior is that people got paid. Those prostitutes, right? That you show off the one freak off, and you like, oh, this is crazy. They want me to have sex for 12 hours, and then they call you back and you show up again, right? Like, what are you doing? Right? You know what I'm saying? Like this is crazy, but you are an active participant in this. You are receiving the benefit, right? You're getting paid the big bucks, and you showing back up to the crazy, right? And then or we think about some of the artists, right? Those the Meek Mill or some of those other folks that are like they're willing to participate in some of this because it might aid their music career. While we disagree with the behavior, everybody was making money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody was exploited in a way where they were losing money from their pocket, right? They weren't being abused in a way that caused them to in an exploitative manner in which he is leveraging them for profit. No, he's leveraging them for his own pleasure, which we got kind of an issue with because that pleasure cost him money. It cost him a lot of money. He had to pay $50,000 for that video. He had to pay and bribe this person and pay and bribe this person and pay and bribe this person so he can continue his reign of terror. All willing participants to say, yo, I'll take this money and shut up.
But he's also facing a new lawsuit. Deontay Nash, who testified at the trial and worked as a stylist for the rapper, alleges he suffered years of abuse, which Combs denies. Nash spoke exclusively to Jerika Duncan.
Puff is chanced out. He's had enough chances. He's right where he needs to be.
Deontay Nash says he worked for Sean Combs from 2008 to 2018, styling Combs and his ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura. In May, Nash says he was ordered by the court to testify at Combs' criminal trial.
You didn't want to be there to begin with?
I did not.
But you were there because of?
I had to be for Cassie. And for myself.
Last week, Nash filed a lawsuit against Combs, accusing the mogul of sexually, physically, and emotionally abusing Nash for a decade. The 39-year-old alleges Combs touched him inappropriately, used a homophobic slur more than once to address him, and choked him on multiple occasions.
Describe the incident you talk about when he strangled you, you say?
Yes. Which time? There was one. Cassie was shooting a video. I love it. And we went to like a restaurant the night before. He just came in with such a bad attitude. So I just left the room. You know what I mean? And I went outside to smoke a cigarette. Don't know how he found me. My back was turned. The next thing I know, he's coming up to me and grabbing me and choking me and throwing me on the car. Didn't I tell y'all don't need to be going out? I'm like, Jesus Christ. And he's like choking me out.
For all the people or questions about why you didn't leave, why you didn't quit or call the police, what stopped you from taking action much sooner?
We were frightened. I was frightened the whole time. I signed up for Bad Boy Entertainment, a record label. I didn't sign up for that kind of treatment. And it will last me for the rest of my life.
Combs is legal.
Yeah, of course. I don't know. I feel like in society today, people's moral compass is just way off.
Oh,
just
yeah.
way off. And that's what's just sad, what's going on in the world today, is that just people don't have ethical morals anymore. They'll do anything for the cheddar cheese. I mean, it's very sad that that's just the way that our world is, going to.
Like at the end of the day, a lot of it just comes down to money. We're such a capitalistic driven society.
Well, and not just, it doesn't just come down to money. It's $50,000 to most of us, maybe not Blair. Most of us, $50,000 is a lot of money.
No, yeah.
To Diddy,
it's just a body pack of gum.
I mean,
a rounding error.
Yeah. So it's also, the other piece is it's not real until it becomes real. Now, when you start talking about millions of dollars, then it becomes real. So, and look, I've always struggled, if I'm on the defense team for Diddy, and this is the kicker. A lot of people don't realize this. When people come forward claiming that they're victims of his behavior, especially to plaintiffs' attorneys, the plaintiffs' firms hire polygraphists, to lie detect them, because there are legitimate victims and survivors, and then there's the other. And it's all about money. In the civil arena, it's all about money, right? So it's real until it doesn't become real. And again, like, I don't even know the last time he wrote a song and produced a song and we listened to a new song by it. It's not like Taylor Swift. I'm not for all those Swifties out there, I'm not comparing Taylor Swift to Diddy. I'm not doing that. But she's dropping a new album, right? She's going on a new tour. Like, when's the last time Diddy had a new album?
It's been years, almost 20 years, huh?
Right. Unless he did some composing.
So I know we're reaching the end of our time, and I always like to, I do think there is some positive from all of this. The national attention on national media. I think the conversation around trials, criminal behavior, how this all works. Like, we have raised the consciousness and you take it for granted what people know about the criminal justice system, about how lawsuits work, how trials work, and everyone's been talking about this in such a way that, like, folks are becoming more knowledgeable and now they know what the federal sentencing guidelines, and they understand that sentencing happens separate and distinct and apart from the trial, right? Like, those concepts that I think Franz and I take for granted that we just know is part of the process, folks are like, wait a minute, he's sentenced. That doesn't happen right after the guilty. No, that is right. People can come and give impact statements, and they consider all these things. And the borough of prisons or the they give their own independent, neutral assessment of what the sentence should be, independent and neutral. But there's a third party who says this is what you should be sentenced to. The parole, the borough of parole, they give their own opinion, and so many folks are joining the conversation, becoming more knowledgeable, and that makes Franz and I job easier because we don't have to explain so much, or the gap between what we expect our clients to know and what's reality is narrowing because we're having these conversations.
Beautiful point.
Awesome. Thank y'all so much. We're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. So to end it off, I'm gonna go ahead and let Andre, Franz, and Aaron, Danielle, y'all drop y'all handles so how everybody can find y'all. Franz, I'll let ahead. I'm looking at my upper right hand corner. So you can go ahead.
So you can check me out on X. Is it still called X? At Borghardt Law, BORGHARDT Law. That's most of my silly commentary, either on Court TV or on Miss Grace's show when I'm on there. But yeah, thank you guys for letting me come on and play.
Thank you. Andre, you can go ahead and drop yours.
Yeah, I am on Twitter at Call Me Bean. Most of that is just for the long time was just Big Brother for all summer because I'm a Big Brother, a crazy person, and like I occasionally will drop some nuggets about the law and respond to some. I follow some law Twitter, but my firm is Vexlum Law. You can go on there and shoot me an email. Anything of that sort, but I don't tweet as much about law as I should. Maybe I'll start doing that more.
It was a Big Brother season though this season. I give it a 7, but I would have loved. I have to go back and look at your thoughts now.
Shout out Ashley.
And Danielle.
Yes, I love who won this year. Oh yeah, with her law degree too. She schools them. Sorry, we're gonna go down a rabbit hole. We keep on talking about it. Oh, it was so good though.
I'd be off first week. I was last
yeah.
week.
Andre, how long would you last in the Big Brother house?
I would put Ashley, not tell anybody I was a lawyer. I hope I'm not out the first. My only goal is to not be the first out. That'd be my only, because that kind of embarrassment, like you never like the first person voted out from Survivor, from Big Brother. There's a kind of like you suck so much. I don't know if I could get over that.
Oh, awesome. Anyone who wants to follow me, of course, Kimberly and I have the pleasure of going live weekly for the Villa Download, but you can find me on all social media at Dani Gossip Girl.
Woohoo! And we've got our friend Erin with us, so
I'm very weird. I don't have social media.
Yeah, she's just saying hello. Yeah, she's
Twitter.
popping out.
I don't really do any of that stuff, but if you ever are in need of insurance, you can always come see me. State Farm in Port Allen, Deborah Carter. If you need any type of insurance, I'm your gal.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank y'all so much for joining us today. Like, this is awesome, and we'll get this out and about. And don't forget to like, follow, subscribe to Pop Culture Green Room. I'm Kimberly A. Bryant.
I'm Blair Bryant.
And y'all have a great weekend. Bye, y'all.
Take care, everyone.
Tune into the buzz, it's the talk of the day. From Bravo shows to the latest celeb spree, we've got the tea, come sip it with me. Dani Gossip.